Hi, everybody, and welcome to another presentation from the Crime Victims Council of the Lehigh Valley. My name is Lauren Silva, and today we're going to be talking to you about goal setting, cracking the code with staying on track. We'll take you through what goals are, how to set goals, maybe some barriers to goals, anxiety, stress, some of those factors that come into play, and a way to set a routine to get back on track and support your overall mental, physical well-being. So before we get started though, I would just like to give you a little bit of an overview of our agency. The Crime Victims Council started in 1979, and we are the local rape crisis and victim services center. So we originally were just a rape crisis center, but we are now comprehensive. And what that means is we work with anybody who has been a victim and or survivor of a crime, as well as their significant others. So that could be theft, robbery, harassment, sexual assault, as well as survivors of homicide. We are in Lehigh and Northampton counties, and we are mandated reporters. So what that means is we do keep all of your information confidential in our services. However, under law, if you disclose something that puts you at risk or puts other people at risk, harm self, harm others, we do have to report that. Our services are at no cost. Again, they are confidential. And 14 years and older, there's no parental consent required. So the actual services that we provide include direct services in our counseling department. So you would meet with a counselor. Right now, it would be via telehealth or over the phone. So we use a platform called Doxy that is confidential and compliant with the confidentiality that is put forth. You can meet with a counselor on your schedule, what works for you, could be weekly, bi-weekly, etc. And basically, we want to work with you on your own journey. So you have a right to self-determination, which means that you have a choice. You have choices in your treatment, what to talk about, your goals. And in addition to that, we are starting to offer some group services. So some of the groups could be girls of survivors of sexual assault, a parental group. Please visit our website at cvclv.org to learn more about some of those services. In addition, we have court advocates that are in Lehigh and Northampton County, so they can support you in a court proceeding process. So going with you to the police station, preparing you for court, as well as hospital advocacy. And in addition with these court advocates, our other employees, other advocates can also support you in that process if you need to go to the hospital or to the police station. But we do have specific court advocates that help you in that court process. And then this piece of the outreach and community involvement is what I primarily do. We have myself, another educator, and our supervisor who go out to schools and provide education on such topics surrounding violence in our community, bullying, harassment, healthy relationships, and ways to give you some things to take back to your friends, your family, to talk about things in ways that you can prevent some of these things of happening in the future. Lastly, I wanted to provide you with our hotline number. This is 24/7, 365. Please write it down, take a screenshot, a picture. You might not need it, but maybe in the future, a friend or somebody might need it. And you can call at any time, morning or night, whether it's 2 a.m., 4 p.m., 11 p.m. You will get an advocate And you don't have to disclose your name if you're not comfortable. We just want to make sure that you are safe. So let's get into goals. Goals is something that you aspire to do or wish to do, right? It's an idea of the future that you want to obtain a desired result that you are planning for, a vision that you have, and what you want to commit to achieve to reach that goal. And it's usually within a finite timeline by setting deadlines, right? So it's any planning that you do in the future, regardless of what it is a goal. So think about that. If you decide that you want to watch that really cool action movie during the weekend after you completed a project with your friend, that's a goal. It's still a small task. And while it seems significant, you are still setting that goal without even realizing it. So why set goals? Without goals, life just happens to you instead of you deciding what you want from it. So setting goals helps us trigger new behaviors and it helps us guide our focus. So in addition to that, it teaches responsibility and it helps us align a sense of self-mastery. So again, that self-determination piece of what we want to do, what we can choose for ourselves. And in the end, you can't manage something if you don't measure it, and you can't improve on something that you don't properly manage. So being able to check your progress, checking on how you're feeling, it helps overcome that procrastination piece, right? So when we have procrastination, maybe we're lazy, we don't feel like doing it, we'll always say, hey, I'll get to it later. And sometimes procrastination can be healthy. Some people thrive under procrastination, but it doesn't help when we set long-term goals, right? Because we're setting ourselves up to reach something in the long-term future that we might not see as realistic, able to get there immediately. So we might see as unattainable and less likely to go after it. So it's going to be important to think about our goals and breaking these goals down into smaller chunks to improve our habits, improve our confidence, and promote that can-do attitude of setting goals. So how do we set goals, right? A goal without a plan is just a wish. So we want to think about breaking down goals into little goals, right? Say we want to get a job in the future, right? Hopefully we all want to get a job, and we want to get a job as maybe a CEO. That's great to have as a job, but what are some of those steps that we have to take beforehand? Is it maybe taking more math classes? Is it getting our first job maybe at a store, customer service? Is it even maybe working on a sleep routine? So being able to work backwards of what is important will help us. So making sure they are that short-term piece, because that way we have more control over our goals. We want to be able to celebrate our success, right? A lot of times we are very hard on ourselves. We try something once, we don't get it right, and we're frustrated. But we tried, right? We have people to support us. We have things that we can change about goals, because let's face it, change is a natural part of life. Change is the only constant in life. So it's natural that our goals will change when our interests change. We want to build on the goal, or we can change them completely. We're not tied down to these goals. But sometimes when we are stressed out, we forget about our goals. And again, we want to give up. So that's where it's important to talk about our goals. Again, increasing and improving our self-confidence and boosting that can-do attitude will help us set goals and achieve them. So let's talk a little bit about SMART goals. Now, SMART goals is more like a scientific method, if you will, of setting goals. Sometimes teachers use this method to be very, very precise of goal setting and tracking goals. However, I wanted to put this in here for you to also know that you can have SMART goals and to think about what it means when you are setting the goals. So the first one, specific. What are you exactly trying to achieve? This includes the W questions, right? Who is involved in this goal? What do I want to accomplish? Where is this goal to be achieved at? When do I want to achieve it? And why do I want to achieve it? Measurable, right? How much and how many things go on that I know that I will obtain this goal or I'll reach it or I'm making progress. Because if we can't comment on something, is it really a goal? If we aren't giving it a measure, what does that mean? So attainable, having it be achievable. And this should be actually stretched to make you feel challenged, but defined well enough that you can change it if you need to, and make sure that you have the resources and the capabilities to achieve this goal. And then, of course, realistic, right? It might not be realistic for us to have a Maserati as a first car, right? So is it within reach? Am I able to commit to achieving this goal? And then T for time bound, right? When we think about time, time sometimes gives us that motivation that we know we have to complete something. So if time is not restricted, there'll be no sense of urgency and therefore less motivation. So, excuse me, I'm battling a sinus infection, so I really apologize. But time bound, so if there is no time restriction, there's that less motivation. So we have that deadline of when do I want to achieve this by? So let's talk a little bit about examples of goal setting and how you can break that down, right? Because we know when we have a goal, it can be overwhelming. We increase our anxiety. Maybe we lash out to our friends and our peers because we're not focused and we're unsure of what's going on. So we get off kilter a little bit. So this goal says read for 30 minutes a day for 1 month. So for specific, for S. So we're going to read 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week for 1 month. And in this case, I'm going to count 1 month as 30 days. So measurable. How am I going to measure? How am I going to track this? So I'm going to maybe set a timer on my phone for 30 minutes and count that down. I'm also maybe going to make a tracking sheet that I can check off every day that I've read. How am I going to make it attainable, right? Do I have the resources? Do I have a book? Do I need to go get a book? Can I borrow a book? Do I need to find a quiet spot at the home, maybe sitting outside, a coffee shop, working with a partner, a friend from school to help you stay on track? Again, is it realistic? If I know that I can't necessarily go for 30 minutes straight through right now, maybe I'm going to break it down into two 15-minute reading slots, and I'm going to track it that way. If maybe I work 2 days out of the week, maybe I'm going to set my goal for reading 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And then timely, right? We want to get to 30 minutes by 30 days. And to improve upon that, maybe after we do reach that, we're going to increase that to 1 hour reading a day after 1 month. And I want to reiterate that it's okay that if we're not going to get the goal right away, that is the importance of a goal, right? That we set the goals to try and try again and to have that sense of self-mastery. Another goal, I will complete at least one homework assignment at the end of each school day, 2 times a week until the end of the school year. So again, let's go through this. Specific, I'm going to choose a subject from the day and start and finish the assignment given by a teacher 2 times a week, Monday through Friday, until the end of the school year. Or maybe I'd like to change that Monday through Sunday. Maybe you wanted to give yourself some extra days. Measurable, track on a document. Did I complete this assignment for history? Yes or no? Have a family member help you stay on track and measure that. Maybe they can initial next to your finished homework assignment. Attainable. Do I necessarily maybe need to start right away after school, or can I take a break? Is my motivation high enough that I know I will come back, or do I need to start that immediately? Again, finding a quiet spot. Maybe I have a snack. Maybe I quickly do an exercise. I go outside, I walk the dog to refocus myself. Again, is it realistic, right? Do I time manage myself? Choose days that I don't have after school activities. Maybe I need to adjust my goal. And then timely, I have half a school year left to work on the goal, right? So that's a decent time to start, track your progress and see how far you've come. But again, what if I just want to give up on my goal? You know, thinking about, well, is it the goal that I actually want to achieve? Reminding yourself of the purpose of your goal. Is it for self-care? Is it to increase your grades, to get into that school that you want? Remind yourself of how you are to overcome any obstacles you might face, right? We're resilient, we bounce back. In this time of COVID, how much that we have adapted to online learning. We're always behind the screen. A lot of these obstacles, you know, maybe have improved our sense of awareness of what triggers us, of Zoom fatigue, needing to take a break, that we can better work on our goals. Again, recognize those small successes. That's so important. I know for me personally, I look at that big picture at the end. I want to get there now. And I have worked very, very hard on backtracking and taking a look at myself and saying, hey, I'm not the same person that I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, even a year. And that's progress. So even though I want to get to Z, I have to be able to be okay with myself of how far I've already come right now, because that's in the importance of your goals, practicing mindfulness, lessening anxiety, and keeping up that positive talk, right? Like, yeah, I've come far. Yeah, I've done this. I can do that. And then you're self-compassionate, right? You give yourself a break when you need to. You give yourself that quality time. So if you do want to give up on the goal, remind yourself of why in the first place that you are doing it. But we have stress, right? We get so overwhelmed that we're constantly putting things into our brains and then we spout out like a kettle. So when we think about stress, stress is a short-term response to a threat, and it's external. Stress happens to everyone, right? We might be stressed out about a new job that we're going to be starting and trying to figure out our hours. That might be stressful because we're now balancing stress in school. And it's emotional and physiological response to stressors that place physical and psychological demands on a person. So again, that everyday life stressors. We can be stressed about friends or family, school, maybe just in general stressed that, I don't know, somebody's constantly doing construction outside of our home and is causing me to not be able to sleep, but it doesn't necessarily hinder our routine, right? We're able to bounce back. And it's important though to recognize stress before it gets out of control and how it can potentially affect your mental, emotional, and physical health. And it could impact your relationships with people and your friends. So after you figured out what your stresses are, you can take steps to avoid them and adapt healthy lifestyle habits and strategies. So when we are feeling stressed, maybe we always have our shoulders up and we don't even necessarily realize that we're tense, or we clench our fists, tight muscles. We're not hungry. Maybe we're forgetful, we're negative, we can't sleep, maybe we're angry. So being able to recognize some of these symptoms creates that awareness of, hey, something's going on, what's happening? So listening to your body, knowing your feelings. If I'm angry, again, what is that anger trying to tell me? What is underneath that anger? Tracking our thoughts, tracking our moods, our daily mood trackers. There's a lot of fun things that we can do with bullet journals and get creative of tracking our thoughts and tracking things to improve our mood, using our supports. I know it's a difficult time to be a teenager, and sometimes we feel like maybe if we ask for help, we're a burden, or that no one's going to listen to us. But trust me, your feelings are valid. And it's important, especially in time like this during quarantine, to lean on supports and to be able to deal with emotional difficulties. The more you push down your emotions, the harder it's going to be to regulate them and get out of that rut. So how to deal with stress, right? These are just some ideas. This is not just binding, right? Talking to someone, taking a break, learning to say no. That is one of the hardest things that I know that I have a hard time. I've actually set goals for myself of saying no. If I am tired, if I am not feeling well, and my friends want to do something, I practice saying no in the mirror, what I'm going to say before I say no, to help me. Because if they're really your friends, right, they would understand. Another, ways to de-stress in less than 10 minutes. Maybe you have a break or you're on lunch for school. Doodling, visualization really helps. Spending time with your pets. Turn on a quick podcast. Disconnecting from your technology is so important with everything going on. We're having news come at us in every which way. So taking those deep breaths and allowing those feelings to be there will help us de-stress if we can acknowledge and be aware of those things. And always do your best, right? You are important. So then we have the anxiety monster, right? I just want to take a little quick moment to tell you that Depression is different from sadness. We all get sad, and that's a normal response. However, if sadness persists and it's more overwhelmed and present, that could be a sign of developing depression. Sometimes a lot of people mistake sadness for depression and say that they are depressed, and you very well may could be, but I don't want to give the wrong idea that depression is sadness. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is actually one of the most common emotions, and it's a normal reaction to threat or danger. And unlike stress, anxiety is internal. So we have racing thoughts, persistent feelings, we're irritable, we're avoiding talking about things. And with anxiety tends to be more dispersed. So think about more broad, that it impacts our lives, our daily lives on a more consistent basis, that we're not able to bounce back. Whereas stress, it's sometimes more that one-time event, and stress though then can turn into anxiety. But anxiety, again, it's normal. It's not always dangerous, and it can be adaptive. So we're thinking about our goals, we're thinking about managing ourselves. What is it that's giving us anxiety, and how can we manage that to stay on track? Because when we experience anxiety, we trigger what is our flight, fight, freeze response in our body. And it's a defense mechanism that we are preparing our body for. Our heart's racing, to increasing our blood to our muscles. We're ready to run away, or maybe we're ready to freeze, and hopefully that the danger will pass over us. However, without anxiety, we would not have survived as a species, because we were able to evolve and adapt to things. Maybe when we are feeling criticized, or we didn't want to come off as stupid, we've adapted to some of those behaviors of what we're going to be talking about as mindfulness and awareness. But it's important to think about anxiety, that it's not just nerves or worrying, that it goes so much deeper than that it can be trouble concentrating, uncontrollable feelings of worry, feelings of guilt and shame. And again, your feelings are valid, anxiety is valid, and it's important to recognize within you what's happening so you can take those necessary steps to work on that anxiety. And when we think about anxiety, we have this little triangle over here of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, right? This sort of makes us have such what we call automatic thoughts, that something is happening to us. So our thoughts are what we say to ourselves. Of course, the physical feelings is what we feel in our body, how they respond, and the behavior is what we do. So sometimes with our feelings, we go on autopilot, right? We're unable to grapple with our emotions, and we just let those emotions take over. And then in our cognitive process that takes part in the brain, it helps us guide our daily habits, make decisions, and it reacts instantly to dangers. So it's that fight, flight, or freeze response. However, in a different part of our brain, we have the intentional brain that actually evolved to be a little bit more nuanced or smart, if you will, that helps us be rational. Our rational part of our brain helps us to make better decisions. So when we are in a heightened state, unfortunately, in anxiety, our emotional brain takes over. But if we can work together our emotional and our rational brain together, it can help us guide our thoughts and feelings to be able to take more control of how we feel and how we respond. So let's take a look at these two examples, right? On the left here, I'm a failure. I'm not cut out for this. I might as well stop trying, our thought. So then we're feeling hurt, incompetent, discouraged, humiliated. And what we do with our behavior is we're withdrawing, we're giving up, and we're shutting down. However, if we're working our brains together, our thought is failing at this one thing does not define my worth. I have my strengths. So then we feel hopeful, confident, worthy. And our behavior is that we are feeling those feelings. We allow that feeling to happen. And we're pushing ourselves to try harder next time and keep going. Now, this is not just going to happen overnight, right? It takes practice, but this is what's going to lead us into mindfulness. So mindfulness is a process of accepting your thoughts and regulating your emotions, right? We are not judging, we're not criticizing, we're being objective. So the two main ingredients of mindfulness is awareness and acceptance. It helps us stay on track and guide you if you fall into a trap of your feelings and your thoughts. So if I am worried that somebody's not getting back to me, and I think maybe I did something to upset them, instead of trying to spiral out and think of all the ways, all the things that could go wrong, I would want to stop those automatic thoughts that are increasing my anxiety, my heart rate. Maybe I'm sweating, breathing faster, and stop those and say, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling maybe moody, and that's okay. I'm labeling my thoughts and feelings and what's going on in my body, and I'm able to separate that of what is actually happening, because I'm in control of how I feel and what I think. I can't control the other person. So why would I ruminate on that and get myself all worked up? So being mindful helps guide us as a tool to, again, to not criticize and judge ourselves while we're managing some of these difficult emotions. We have primary and secondary emotions. You might have heard me say that throughout this presentation, and they tend to give us a clue to how we are feeling. So again, we're feeling angry. What's underneath that anger? What is at the core? Am I just feeling ashamed? Am I feeling silly? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling embarrassed? And letting those feelings come up is a natural part to engage in mindfulness. You know, the goal of mindfulness is to promote perspective on your consciousness or your awareness and identity that can bring us greater peace mentally and relationally. A lot of people think that mindfulness is very hard. I know I've had a hard time trying to buy into mindfulness because I thought a lot of it was about meditation, breathing, focusing my breath and keeping my mind quiet. While that is part of mindfulness, it goes so much deeper. And people have actually pointed out to me that, hey, you are being mindful. You're being mindful of your actions. You're being mindful of how you're feeling and what's going on in your body. You're not blaming others. You're taking control. So it helps us slow down, know ourselves better, focusing, or not stressing. It helps us bounce back from things that might have hurt us. We can accept ourselves better and compassion for others. And we're overall just happier if we're mindful, because if we always go around talking bad about people, making fun of people, what is that saying about ourselves? Can we look inward before we are projecting outward? So, how can we stay on track when we take all these things together? Again, it all comes back to your goals and what you want to achieve. Again, goals necessarily don't always have to be written down, even though it says you want to write it down. But if I have a goal of just making sure I say 3 positive things at the end of the night that happened, maybe I want to put something on a mirror as a reminder. But a lot of these things help us, again, be happy. We're mindful of how we're reacting. We're keeping our eye on the prize, right? Because what we focus on, you create. So you are the change. You are the one that is going to take all these goals, all these items, and turn it into gold, right? A lot of things are changing in our society. How are we going to be able to manage that? What am I going to do to contribute to that? Am I going to be angry all the time? Or am I going to take responsibility for my goals, my actions, how much I want to be stressed? And do I want to be able to give back and help people? So when we think about routine, the way I like to describe routine is that they are actions that I take for my energy and time. We automatically, in a sense, have routines, right? We're waking up, we brush our teeth, we're logging on to school, paying attention, lunch, done with school, homework, sport practice, getting ready for bed, etc. And while a lot of us like routine, some of us maybe want a loose routine, but it's important to know that structure, a lot of us love structure. It gives us a sense of predictability. And when we have a routine, it helps ward off stress and anxiety. So we feel safe and secure, right? We can pay attention to how we feel throughout the day and when we're most productive when we develop a routine. It gives us hints of, do I maybe need to change up my routine? It helps our mental health, helps healthy habits, and reduces our stress level, right? Again, thinking about how much we've had to adapt and develop new routines at being at home. Maybe we're in a hybrid schedule now, but it's important to have those routines, voicing what helps you in a routine. Even just having a job of maybe feeding and walking the dog increases our mental health and that routine because it's predictable. We're doing different things of getting out and about. We're not necessarily just sitting in front of a screen all day. So these are just some examples of routines and habits to help you get to your goals, feel better about ourselves, right? We have our routine in the morning and nighttime, and I can't stress it enough of how important it is to turn off your phone or take time to actually read before bed, because the lights of your phone tend to sometimes impact our sleep. There's studies out there that show us the light from our phone does not do us justice when we're trying to sleep. Maybe we can have bedtime habits of drinking tea. We're getting our clothes out for the next day. We're actually getting dressed for school Zoom. Or we can have a daily planner, things that can help us, just stay on track, that we're drinking enough water, we're checking in on our mood, we're just doodling and checking in on things. So we want to be able to organize our day into what we need to do and must do, right? We don't want to cram things into our day to make sure that they get done. We want to be able to balance that and say, it's okay that I'm not getting to this today. Laying out a clear timeline. Allow buffer time. So if we need a break, giving us that space. And again, planning your days accordingly to your weekly tasks and goals, right? Don't add goals that you're not going to be able to focus on, because again, that will make us feel overwhelmed. We might lash out, we're angry, we're upset. So take time to think about what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it, what's going to help you when you write it down. Are you visual? Do you need to draw? Do you need to make voice notes? Set reminders on your Alexa or Google Nest? But a lot of these things come down to you and your focus, helping yourself be better individuals and role models for your friends, your siblings, and etc. when you can manage some of these things. So I'd like to say thank you for listening. Here's my contact information and our phone number. Remember, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Good luck, and I will talk to you soon.